Hello, my name is Alison Jane Fraser. Welcome to Theatre 40 on camera. Now, I only have one guest today. She's called Bea Silvern. And I have to tell you, see, she's had such a long and illustrious career that, quite frankly, we're going to fill more than half an hour. So I decided that this was going to be a special and isolated spot. Now, Bea, you are a director, an actress, a writer, and indeed a key number here at BHTV. But let's start at the beginning. When did your theatre career actually begin?
Oh dear, it must have been 30 years ago.
You don't look it. That's flattery for you.
Well, I'm glad I came today. It was actually a fluke. I started out as an interior decorator. I was drafted to help decorate a set, a French set.
Mm-hmm. But where? Where was this?
In Olean, New York, a small town, 18,000 population. I was 8 months pregnant with my second child. And the second lead in the show got the measles. I had been holding book after I decorated the set, and they threw me on stage in a huge fur coat. The show, thank goodness, lasted 3 weeks, and the day it closed, I went into the hospital and had that baby.
But that was number 2, wasn't it? It wasn't your first child.
That was my second child, yes.
So you were very experienced by that stage.
Oh, yes,
well.
I held on till the show closed.
But that was the beginning. Was that the beginning of your theatre career?
That's right.
But then what happened? I mean, most people say that they prepare for years, they go to drama school, all that sort of thing.
Well, I'm loath to say I have never studied as an actress. However, when I did that show, the director of that winter stock theater in this little town cast me in every single show, every single year, for 4 years because he didn't have to pay me. I was not equity.
Oh, I see.
But I learned my craft.
But also, probably a talent was there.
Oh, I was wonderful. No.
But it went on. I mean, then you went into New York, and tell us a bit about the productions that you've been involved in.
Oh, well, my first show was done, I think, Cleveland, Ohio, Trenton, New Jersey, Detroit, Michigan. Everywhere I lived after that. I immediately found a theater company and really learned my craft.
It has to be said, you also followed the drum, i.e. you went where your husband went.
That's right. His career always came first.
So when you got to New York, what happened?
Oh, in New York, I concentrated mostly on directing. I did not want to leave the children to do road company work, which was most of the work out of New York City, unless you were a big star. So I turned to directing, and I became, after 4 or 5 years, artistic director of an off-Broadway theater.
But at that stage, there was only off-Broadway. There wasn't off-Broadway.
That's right. There was off-Broadway and Broadway, and that was it. Yeah.
And I have here, you directed 15 plays, but was that in New York, or 15 plays as a combination between all original works, mind you, between here and New York?
That was during the New York time only. Those 15 plays were all original plays, written by New York writers, in both the Theater 13, where I was artistic director, as well as a number of other off-Broadway theaters in New York.
We have some wonderful photographs, in fact, of you in an assortment of productions. And I think the first one, if I'm not right in saying, is something called The Bad Seed. Can you remember something about that?
The Bad Seed was the first play that I was in when I came to Los Angeles. I was cast as Mrs. Daigle, the drunken mother.
That's a variety.
And it started my television and film career. The reviews, happily, were marvelous. And I had 3 agents wanting to sign me. I was so green, I didn't know what to do, and everybody in the cast said, you go with the Mitchell-Gertz agency. So I did, and it just took off from there. I was very lucky.
How wonderful. And then we have The Diary of Anne Frank.
That was a West Coast premiere done at the Players Ring, which was a very prestigious theater here in town. I played the comic relief role, essentially Mrs. Van Damme with the fur coat. And it was a horrendously difficult role because of the content of that play.
But, you know, the thing that strikes me as I go through the photographs, and we'll cover every one in a moment, is that the variety is quite extraordinary, because the next photograph is a Molière.
Ah, that was the first time I was cast as a sexpot. And I said, I've never been a sexpot. I can't do a sexpot. They threw me into the costume and said, you are a sexpot. So I sexpotted.
Well, and then that was followed by the rose tattoo.
The rose tattoo, I do a lot of dialects. I do Italian, I do Russian, I do European, all European dialects. British, Irish.
Wasn't your mother German? Am I not right?
My mother was Viennese. And my grandmother came to this country right after Hitler took over in Vienna. Barely got out, barely got out. So I had to learn to speak German so that I could communicate with her. And so I picked up a perfect German accent and a lot of German language.
But then that's an excellent tool to have as an actress, because then you can manipulate it and use it in an assortment of accents.
That's true. One of the television series that I was able to land was because I spoke German, and I played a German housekeeper. I was written in like crazy because I was funny. That was called The Secrets of Midland Heights, and that show only lasted 2 years.
Our fifth picture is, I think, my sister Eileen, is that right?
Yes. My Sister Eileen was directed by Donald Freed, and I think everybody knows about his work in this country, here and Europe. And I played the role. This was the stage play, not the musical. One thing I've never learned to do is sing. I have a dreadful singing voice.
You mean only fit for the bath?
Good ear, but no range.
Isn't that strange?
I've sung on stage as a character, but never as a singer.
And then a favourite of mine, A Man for All Seasons.
That was an exciting show because the content was wonderful. That was a British dialect, and I played the wife in that. And that was another one where they threw me in a décolletage outfit because I had the deckle for the Taj.
And then after that we have Abraham Lincoln. Takes you from A to B, doesn't it?
Yes, that was Mary Todd Lincoln. It was a wonderful show, too.
And what about Frenzy for Two or More, which is an Ionesco?
West Coast premiere of Frenzy for Two or More, and I designed the set as well as acted in that. And that set, there's a fun thing about the set. I used 2.5-inch foam rubber for the walls. The place had to be destroyed during the show. So I had the idea to make a crossword puzzle, not a crossword puzzle.
No, you mean like a jigsaw
puzzle out of that set. And the poor stage manager had to put back the walls of that set every night after it was destroyed.
Oh, I would have hung, drawn and quartered you.
It was the only way to have destruction.
And then we have a Neil Simon, The Good Doctor.
The Good Doctor was a West Coast premiere, and I played a number of roles in that. That was the one about Chekhov, where he did different Chekhov stories, and I did all of the character women.
It's called The Sneeze.
Well, that was one of them, and there were a whole bunch of them.
And then there's the governess.
I did the governess. I did the crazy lady who screams at the top of the desk of the banker.
Right. I actually think
the peasant woman.
That piece is very entertaining. It gives an actor a lot of opportunity to flex her artistic muscle.
They doubled up the cast, so I had about 6 roles. It was wonderful.
Oh, great.
Great fun.
Now follows The Kingdom of Earth, because that is quite a special piece in your heart, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Tell us why.
Well, Tennessee Williams, who wrote The Kingdom of Earth, the subtitle is 7 Descents of Myrtle. He came out to Los Angeles because our reviews were so wonderful, and the play did not do well in New York.
Can I just read an extract from his memoirs? I may have mentioned seeing a perfect revival of Kingdom of Earth in a small remote house on the coast. It was cut to its proper length, beautifully cast, and the lady who directed it brought out its bawdy and yet touching style and its strong thematic content. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful comment.
It was a thrill. When I decided to do that play and was able to get the rights for the West Coast premiere, I read the play and felt it wouldn't work in its form, in its present form at the time, and I'm appalled to tell you this. It should not have been done. But I changed the play to a 2-act play. I moved scenes from 1 act to the 2nd act, cut other scenes. I did a cut and paste on his work. And then when I heard that he was coming out, I thought I'd better go to Europe. But he loved it. He loved it and asked me for my script, took me out to supper, and took my copy of the script and used it after that.
But you also had a nomination for your playing of the role in that
yes,
piece,
I played Myrtle in that show, Southern accent, and was nominated as Best Actress, but I did not win it. Lauren Bacall won it for Company. It was the year she came here in the stage play company.
Well, forgive the pun, but you were in good company.
Yes.
Sorry. Then we have another one, which is the last of the theatre photographs we have of you, called What the Butler Saw. That
was the West Coast premiere of a Joe Orton play. Wild piece. I played the whole show in a slip and a fur coat.
Bea, you have chosen to switch backwards and forwards, to direct, to act, and to write. for a lady who didn't really think about doing theatre until she was in her mid-20s, that's an extraordinary task to take on. How has it all evolved?
I think I'll start with the writing. The only time I write anything is when I feel strongly about an issue. Mm-hmm. And then I just sit down and do it at night, all night, until I say what I have to say about it. I write primarily comedies. They've been done in New York. They were done here on the West Coast.
So you obviously write about issues that you feel strongly. When it comes to direction, when you've actually had your own company, have you also presented plays with a message?
Yes, I hope that theater and television can be a learning experience.
Now, when you've been out here, have you had your own company here? Have you had your own space, so to
Yes,
speak?
if you know the name David Sheehan, he is a critic on television, quite well known. He was the producer of Theatre Now. He hired me to do a play, found out about my background, and then got his big break on television. It was a conflict of interest for him, and he had to get rid of the theater. He turned to me and said, "Bea, do you want to take the theater?"
Did you?
And he said, "I know about your background. I've read your reviews from New York. If you want the theater, you can have my backers and the theater." This was a paid company. This was Equity Company. And I've never been shy about trying things, and I said, "Sure, I'll take your theater."
So how long were you there?
It was 5 years. We did a lot of plays. We did children's theater. It was a one-room house. We did children's theater Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings for birthday parties. I ran a writer's workshop. Hendy Brooks ran that for me. I directed a director's workshop. I taught that. I taught the acting workshop. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we did original plays from the writer's workshop using the actors and directors in the classes. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 shows on the weekends. We did, quote, the main stage productions.
But that's wonderful, because it's when you're doing that sort of thing that people become creative. They really feed off each other.
And in order to make it work, the set designer and I devised a convertible set. With one group of flats, I could do 8 plays by twisting and turning the flats, putting inserts in that were painted to fit.
Like a sort of merry-go-round.
That's
so
right.
In fact,
Each flat was on its own pin and turned and twisted and changed shape, and I found it very convenient.
Very convenient and economical, too.
Yes, yes.
Why did that come to an end? Or like all good things?
Well, we had a problem with that. We were paying our actors. We had a tiny little house. It was originally a 94-seat theater. Then the Waiver Theater came into being, and all over town, people were getting actors free in 99-seat houses. My backers pulled out. They said, "Why should we pay actors when the rest of these theaters are not?"
Right.
And because we had been an equity-paid house, the union would not let us continue under our contract unless we were paid. Lost the backers, lost the theater.
And the irony of the whole thing, of course, is now that we have gone back to Waiver Theatre, where actors are paid, be it all a very nominal amount, but we are still paid.
Yes, and this was not nominal for the time. This was, for a short week, it was $70 a week, and that's quite a number of years ago. And money is worth a lot less now.
So what have you been doing in the interim? I mean, since the close of the theatre. Probably I've taken too much of a large chunk, but we have to move on.
I've acted, done, over 90 television appearances. I've been a regular and a semi-regular and on 3 series.
We have, in fact, some photographs, too, so I'm going to refresh your memory. The first one we have is something called a Playhouse 90 special.
My first television show.
Oh, really?
Can you imagine? I was on stage in The Bad Seed. The reviews were marvelous. I had a call from the Playhouse 90 people, no agent yet, and they said, "We want you on an all-star cast Playhouse 90 show."
Oh, I've got shivers. I
had the shivers. I was terrified. Peter Lorre, Raymond Massey, Cliff Robertson, Van Heflin. Everyone was a star except me. Oh, I must tell you about the first time I showed up on that set.
Go right ahead.
I came in the second week. It was a 3-week show with rehearsals for 3 weeks. I came in the second week. Mine was not the biggest role. And I came to the actors' table, and Raymond Massey put his hand out and said, "My name is Raymond Massey. Welcome to the set." Same thing with the others. And then Peter Lorre said, my name is Peter Lorre, welcome to the set. And I said, my name is Bea Silvern, and I thought I would die. It slipped out. I'm a terrible mimic.
We know. I've shared an editing bay with you.
But he loved it. He thought it was the funniest thing that happened, and he kept telling that story to everyone.
Oh, well, that's lovely when they pick it up. Now, the next one is Visions for KCET, I think.
I did a number of those. There were, it was a series at KCET anthologies. I played a fat lawyer on one. They patted me. I wasn't that fat.
No, you don't look it.
No, this one was another very sad story, and the picture you see there took place at a funeral because I'm a good crier. I can cry on exactly the right word. I just remember one dreadful experience that happened in my life. And we'd better not talk about that.
Do you want me to start now?
No, it happens every single time.
Oh, don't. You're about to go. Let's move on to the young Frankenstein instead.
Oh, great fun. Great fun.
Who is, in fact,
was
Mel Brooks.
Yes, and he is a scream. You can't get your work done. He's so funny. He's so funny. I played the mistress of old Frankenstein, demanding money, you know, from his estate. And my scene ended when the hand of Frankenstein came out of the casket. And that was the end of the scene.
Oh, lovely. Great suspense. Steel.
Steel. That was Art Carney. He was wonderful in that. He was an older man at that by then. But he did a really touching, beautiful job. That was filmed in Kentucky, bluegrass country.
And that's what it looks like.
Yes, and the whole cast was invited to the horse shows, and we had box seats. Oh, I had a dreadful thing happen to me. I almost ended up with a horse. What we didn't know was that if you lift your hand, you've bought a horse.
Oh, I see, yes. At an
Well, I lifted my hand to fix my hair, and I almost had a horse. A thoroughbred horse costing about $800,000.
The next photograph we have is something called The Competition.
This was the film with Richard Dreyfuss, Amy Irving, and Lee Remick, and myself.
Relatively recently.
Yes, that was one of the toughest shows I've ever done. I had to be a Russian. And what I didn't know when I got the part was that I had to speak Russian.
Oh.
Now, I do dialects, but I had never done a show where I spoke more than one sentence in Russian, which had been written for me. In this show, most of my dialogue was Russian. And by the time we were through, each day, the hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up.
And our last picture, unless I'm very much mistaken, is CPO Sharkey.
That was Don Rickles.
Yes.
Very funny man. And I did that show for only one season. That show lasted one season. He didn't want to continue with it. He did not enjoy the discipline of having to say the word and end the word when you have to time-wise. So the show ended. But he was so wonderful. He should have continued with it.
Tell me, where has it, out of all this television that you have done, that it has shown you what an extraordinary medium it is and how exciting it is to direct and write and work in?
Well, you've hit something very interesting. I was never one to stay in my dressing room or in my trailer. I was always on the set watching what happens, getting behind the cameras if I could sneak a peek. And I think you're right. I never thought of that, Allison, but it probably has helped a great deal. But I must tell you that being here at BHTV has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Well, that's what that was really how I was going to lead the question too, was is this why you're here at BHTV? I know we were given the opportunity to do the course through Theatre 40, but some of us did the course and forgot about it. Others of it took and ran with it. And you were one of the people who really has nurtured our company, Theatre 40, into being part and parcel of BHTV. Now, explain why and how and...
Well, Theatre 40 is housed in the same building. I felt that since this is a Beverly Hills channel, you remember, I came to you, Allison, and said, let's do a Theatre 40 show and have the Beverly Hills residents meet the company. And that's what we did. But just getting to the larger issue, when Theatre 40 was given the opportunity to take a class here and learn camera and learn everything, I joined them. And frankly, I don't think anyone could do it without the fellow who runs this place, Gary Campbell. He has ultimate patience with all the novices. It's remarkable that that he can get through a day with the same stupid questions being asked of him over and over, and I still ask these stupid questions. He's amazing.
But I think the wonderful thing about this place is that he teaches you, and then you are given the opportunity to stand on your own 2 feet. But nobody nurtures you. You can't be babied here. You have to go in and do it. And in fact, you've done exactly that, because your first production was not with Theatre 40, but was a piece that you wrote with another group. Tell us about it.
Oh, well, I had written that, it's called Rockshade. It's a very Beckettish piece. I love Beckett, I love Ionesco, and this was my Beckett piece, my Ionesco piece.
But you
a 2-character play.
Haven't you been nominated for a Beckett Award?
Oh, well,
as well?
Yes, that's a show that I acted in. For Not I, by Samuel Beckett, and the reason there's no photograph is that all you see on stage in the whole play is a female mouth. Do you want to talk about that?
No, let's continue on, just to show that
I'll just finish that. Yes, we did Rockshade here. I did that at the Colony Theater. And the reason I wrote it, I know it's silly, other than the fact that I wanted to try my hand at that kind of work, was that I wanted a simple set, and it had one rock, a big rock, and that's it. And I had inherited that rock from another show that someone else had done. They were going to throw it out, and I said, I'll keep it and write a play for it. So I did.
And you've also written something else that won a Wave Award.
That was, well, I could not have gotten that Wave Award without Gary Campbell. I wrote that for the League of Women Voters. Morning at the Polls was the name of that show. And we had a wonderful group of gals with me during that period.
And you were able to use the Theatre 40 actors.
And I used the Theatre 40 actors. And then we put that show together, and lo and behold, it won an award, much to my surprise.
Why much to your surprise? It was a really novel way of illustrating exactly what happens under those circumstances.
Well, yeah, you're right. I believe that comedy can teach more readily than heavy drama or being hit on the head with messages. And so I wrote everything I could find at the suggestion of all the members of that group, the League of Women Voters, everything that happens at a day at the polls.
And now you've got to 30 seconds, just 30 seconds, to tell us what is in the pipeline now.
Oh, my Lord, I never know. I never know. I'm busy finishing 2 plays that I'm writing. I just finished another television show, FBI, The Untold Stories, as an actress, so I do it all.
And here at BHTV, you've also put together a series with some of us called...
The Casting Corner, yes. And that's paid off. We've gotten agents, we've gotten contracts for 6 people through that show. We invite people in the industry who can give an actor or those interested a job. And then we have an audience of actors or people interested in that subject. Then they can network. They're on camera together with the guest, and they do auditions for the guest on camera on the various subjects. We had kids on camera, we had commercials, we had dramatic, and we've gotten people work.
And now you can say goodbye to our audience on camera.
You say goodbye. It's your show.
Thank you very much for joining Bea Silvern and myself here at Theatre 40 on camera at BHTV. Goodbye.